All right, we are live. Hello, everyone, whether you are joining us live or whether you are watching the replay of this. I'm super excited to have Jenny on as a guest. We had interacted briefly, but not had a chance to really engage in the full conversation that I would like to have had. And so, what we thought was cool is, you know what? Instead of talking beforehand, let's go live and let the conversation unfold with the audience. We do have the option for you to add comments and questions as we go. Sometimes I don't always catch it right away because I'm engaged in the conversation. So please don't feel that we're ignoring you. We will try to get to those questions or comments after the fact if we don't catch them during the go live. And with that, I would like to give Jenny an opportunity to speak about herself and about what she does before we dive into our conversation. I like you to hear guests talk about their bio rather than me just read it, because you can see different words that they emphasize, and I think that's really profound. So take it away, Jenny. Tell everybody who you're all about.
Deb, thank you so much for having me. What an honor to be in front of your audience. I never take these opportunities to speak with people. I never take it for granted. I am so happy you were so gracious to invite me. On that note.
You're very welcome. Thank you for joining me.
And by the way, congratulations on your honor you received.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, seriously. All right. So my name is Jenny C. Cohen, and I bill myself as an outside-in master. I love to use dance as a way to get you in your subconscious, which is 90% of who you are right now, listening and watching, already predetermining if I am a safe entity and how you're going to react to it. Dance is something that I have used in all of my life. It's something that I feel is safe, especially when you go into a classroom with an instructor that understands that you are releasing emotions and memories in your body in your own unique way and just holds that space for you. You don't even need to do it in public. You can do it at home. I have come to this conclusion energetically. We actually all connect on a frequency when we're dancing. So you could be dancing alone. You're actually connecting with people all around the world who are doing it.
Wow. So I think the cool thing about dance is that there's so many levels to it, right? So I think sometimes we can misperceive dance as in the concept of like being a trained dancer in professional dance troupes, which certainly is a component of it. Or we think about going to a formal dance and you're on the floor. But dance is, the music's blaring and you're spinning around in your kitchen and you're releasing emotions and you're just embracing where you're at. I have done that in times of happiness. I have done that in times of sorrow. And it really is a very powerful tool. And one of the things I thought would be kind of a neat connection to what you do. So Friday night, and they do these throughout the world, Tim Tebow Foundation hosts something called the Night to Shine. For those who don't know, it's kind of a prom for people with special needs and disabilities, and that's pretty all-encompassing. And it's an opportunity for them to have really a fancy, special night, but a big part of that is obviously dance. And as a volunteer there and being out on the floor, kind of walking around, and you just see everybody, just the smiles as they dance. And clearly some people on the dance floor have not had any type of dance training, but nobody is caring about that, right? The people that are the dancers themselves, the people that are watching them dance, everybody's just having such a great time. And it's just such an uplifting thing. And I think that happiness that you can see is something that we can all tap into. I thought maybe you could talk a little bit about that, right? The ability for dance to just release this happiness inside of us and allow us to feel emotion in a way that we can't do in other formats. Whether we know the steps that we're taking or not, just the act of kind of moving our body.
Yes. I was a dancer before I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I actually danced throughout my treatment. And one of the things that I talk about in my book was the realization I was going to dance events, oftentimes unable to dance, and just sitting in that space where the dancers were generating this energy, it healed and filled me so I could go back home for the next chemotherapy treatment. So it is imperative, audience, that in hearing this, you're acknowledging and understanding that the effect of dance, you just need to be in the space. We're mostly water. We vibrate to sound. So in addition to the energy being generated by the dancers, we're still reacting, even if you're just moving a finger. It is resonating in your body. And I really love you sharing your experience from this past weekend. Before I became an occupational therapist, I volunteered at this amazing summer camp called Camp Jabberwocky. It was started by the Lamb family. It was situated in Martha's Vineyard. I did it for 3 or 4 summers in a row, and it was an opportunity for children who had cerebral palsy and other types of limitations. At those times were more open to children. Now, back in that day, that was 30 years ago, this camp where children could come from anywhere from 1 week to a full month was for them to experience what is it like to have a camp experience. We had a giant red bus and a green van, and we took these kids to the beach every day, and we would put them on our backs and drag their wheelchairs to the edge of the water and bring them into the water. We had parties, we had classes. I brought dance to the children at that camp. We had dance classes. And here's the thing, I remember this counselor and her eyes lighting up. She was, I'm doing quotation marks for people listening, right? She was trapped in this chair, and yet she could still move her arms because she had the cerebral palsy, where she really was more of a quadriplegic.
Quadriplegic. I know.
Thank
That is
you.
a tough word. Yeah.
And I worked in that whole industry, y'all. You would think I could pronounce it. Either way,
It's Monday.
I know. Now we drink another sip of tea. All right. So her eyes lit up for us when I put her in the show. We had a whole show as part of our dance classes, and we made sure she had access to fabric she could make move. She had a solo in her wheelchair, and she got to be the center of all of that energy we were generating. I'm actually getting really emotional remembering that, because it was second nature for me to make sure that she was a part of this entire production. And the joy and glee that resonated in her face and whole body for the entire week after, it is just priceless that she got to experience that. Gallon Hooks just did a really amazing post with 2 women in wheelchairs who did her choreography, and she was acknowledging how much they expressed in their unique way that was mind-blowing for the dancers in that space for those days.
Yeah, and there's so many parallels to it, but I think even just that, so the act of dancing, the act of including people of all different abilities and different places in their lives in it, right? And what message that sends, right? Because it's you can do this even if this is something outside of it. But it's such a natural thing. So you think about, I think they even there was like a TikTok challenge or something where it was like they play a song like "Try Not to Bop Your Head." Right? Try not to bop your head, try not to sway. And they would play these different songs, and they were specific songs, I think, that had some generational emotion associated with them. So that was part of it. But certainly different beats. I mean, if you have a certain song that's playing right near somewhere, you can usually see most people will kind of be bopping their head to it, maybe not even aware that they're doing it. And I was at another event this weekend, actually, the ceremony that you mentioned, and there was a singer. Oh gosh, her voice. But she was singing, and what she was singing was not a song you would normally dance to. But as I was listening to her, enjoying it, I was swaying, right? Our natural inclination is to connect with the music because we are moved by it. And when our body and our emotions are moved, our bodies want to kind of be part of that. So when we free ourselves to do that, whether like you said, if it's just your finger, and again, like a lot of us will tap our finger, right? We tap our finger when we're listening to music, but that's feeling that rhythm, that natural thing. And I think, you talking about that camp, it makes me emotional too. I think when my son was young and he was in a special needs preschool, and there was a person who used to come in and she would do music, and very similar, right? So even if it was just the kids clapping or snapping, but that is an act of dancing, and it's an act of feeling the rhythm of the music and connecting your body with it and doing something with it. And so it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I think more people should feel comfortable saying that they dance, right? Did you dance in your house, that you dance, then kind of being inhibited by thinking people are going to think that means that you've got some professional training. Though I do want to pause to say professional training is its own beautiful art form, and I don't would not try to purport that I am a trained dancer. That's a whole other art form, and it's magnificent to watch people who are trained in it. So how did you, was it dance was your passion, and then you found this affinity for being able to bring that to people in this way that would help them to heal emotionally or be their best selves? Or did you kind of always have the inclination to help people heal, and then the dance came in? Like, how did that evolve for you as a way to bring people to their best selves?
I really love this question. When I immigrated to the States at 6 from Taiwan, I was put right into first grade. And I didn't really have anyone to help me with the English language. I picked it up quick enough, right? And from those times, I felt very isolated. I had little friends until I finally convinced my mother in fourth grade after years, because they were immigrants and money was tight back then, and dance was a luxury. So guys, I'm 55, so think back like 40 years ago, before all the social media and all of
Right.
this uplifting of the arts now, right? But back then, and she put me into dance class, in this beautiful ballet class, and I felt whole. I felt
Mm.
safe. And I've noticed over the years, whether you are a Christian or any other type of religion, for me, it felt like prayer. And it's always that way with me. And I think it is one way of us connecting to these beautiful instruments, our bodies that we were gifted. It's important to keep that highway open, folks. Dancing is one of the few scientifically backed activities that lights up every part of your brain. Most of the time, we don't have all the parts of our brains united. We're compartmentalizing. And because we're post panini, most of us are in still trauma response from this, depending on whatever your life experience with it is. So we need to dance. You must dance to get present. Otherwise, you've driven to this location. You don't know how you got there. How often does that happen to us? Or the day goes by and we're like, wait, I have time blindness. Do I have ADHD? Like, what happened?
Right.
Because we forgot to be present. One of the rules I've listened to every day since my breast cancer, if I dance, it reminds me for gratitude. In my book, I talk about we don't have permission to have survivor guilt, right? We're supposed to be like warriors, every one of us, and just be grateful. We still have to acknowledge, oh, wow, every day you wake up, you're given an opportunity. How do you make the most of it? A lot of us are kind of paralyzed by that subconscious question. We kind of avoid addressing it. If you dance, it gets you present. My clients and I also do a ritual. It's called clearing denial, where we connect chakra and meridian points, and is literally connecting you to your life's purpose, your truth for that day. And that's really important, folks. How do you know what you do next? We're so distracted. If not for what I do every day, I would literally be lost on social media. Okay, I'm lost on social media a lot. However, when I'm not on my social media and not dancing, I'm actually very connected to my truth and getting my message out there.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, what you said, right, about being present. So, and let's just look at that as a message in general. I mean, obviously for the conversation right now with dance and how that helps us, but being present, present and connected with your purpose. So when you're thinking about, hey, this is my bigger why, this is what I'm going to do, and your why doesn't have to be, oh, I'm going to change the world and I'm going to create world peace. It can be. That's certainly something that it can be.
Yes.
But your why, your driving purpose can come in so many different shapes and sizes. And when you get in touch with that and you take that purpose, you acknowledge it, and then you're present in the moment, every single situation that you're in, every word that you hear, every word that you give becomes part of you achieving your purpose. Because look, holding the door open for somebody at the grocery store can have a remarkable impact beyond what you think it might be. Not just the smile that that person has there. Who knows who saw it? Who knows what was felt? But so every moment kind of feeling that presence. And that's, I love that you said that, because I try really hard. And I think that we do all get distracted by the noise. There's a lot of noise.
There's
And
a lot
social
of
media is
noise.
definitely a contributing factor. However, sometimes that noise can be positive, because as much as social media can be a distraction, we also have opportunities to do things like this, right? We are present in this conversation with each other, and whomever is taking this information in, and we're sharing with them something of us, and allowing them to connect with it. So it can definitely be a thing, but with all that noise, to be present in the moment, and really just appreciate the opportunities that you do have, and even some of the setbacks. I mean, you sharing about your breast cancer journey, right? That was for you life changing, a very difficult and in many ways, I'm sure, horrible circumstance to be in. But what a beautiful journey you've turned that into, because you took the opportunity to say, I'm going to take this struggle and I'm going to be present in it, and I'm going to find my true meaning, and I'm going to keep on going forward. Do you tend to work with a lot of people who are going through medical crises? Or, I mean, I'm sure your audience could be anybody, right? Any of us could do it. But do you find that there's a lot of people who are in medical crises or mental health crises where they're, using that type of way of dance to help them navigate that tough road?
I wrote my book as a love letter to the me before, who had just been released from medical treatment, because there was very little support. They just said, "Oh, we'll see you next year. You're great. You were officially cancer free." And I was like, "What?" I'm seeing you monthly, and now you say I don't feel safe in my body. I'm angry. I have survivor guilt. I'm not present. The irony with the Western way of healing is you literally have to disassociate as they're pumping poisons in you when you have to go through chemo or taking the pill for chemotherapy. Who willingly does that? Who in their sane mind would be like, yes, I'm going to sit here while the nurse gowns up and layers with a face shield and 3 pairs of gloves, and then pumps the poison either into your veins or into a port that they've installed, right? And so, a little bit of a trigger warning for the audience, just to let you know. For me, when I was done with my cancer treatment, cancer, the side effects of it was I started using dance as a form of hiding and escape, because it felt so good. I didn't want to deal with my feelings because there was so little support. The
Mm.
only thing that brought me back from this running away from just life, being present, was when one of my kids told me on a trip away that they were self-harming. That's the trigger warning. And they were making plans not to be around anymore. And I was an occupational therapist, Deb. I know what to do. I went into clinical mode, set up therapy. We locked up every single sharp object in the house, I thought. And because I wasn't present still, I was still escaping. My child found a fish fillet knife I had missed, a brand new one, in a drawer right in front of me, and had a relapse. And that was my God, grabbing me and saying, you need to stop running. And that was the beginning. As we were saving my child, we realized that I was running basically all my life. So the breast cancer does not run in my family, Deb, at all. I was in the best shape I had ever been. I was completely vegan. The only thing that I know now in retrospect was I had not dealt with the cumulative trauma in my life. So when you ask me who are my clients today, I wrote the book and set up this Dance to Heal program for cancer survivors. Right now, most of my clients are people that were me before I got the cancer.
Oh,
People
so
who just
preventive. Yeah.
they just never realized. And as we're working together, I had this amazing client who wanted to ask me questions about her anger. And then we took that apart. I had another client who's actually from the dance community and feeling so alone with her special needs child. Because, when we have special needs children, I have a son who was diagnosed with type 1 at 10. So I stopped sleeping for 5 years thinking he was going to die in his sleep, Deb. Because type 1 diabetes is no joke, folks.
Right. Right.
Right. And so leading up to finding that lump, I thought, oh, life is great. My kid's alive, and then my husband had emergency surgery the month before. I thought I was going to be a widow. So all these accumulative things I was not addressing, and all of my safety nets were being completely torn apart.
Yeah, I'm going to pause for a minute because I want everybody to take that in. I think that honesty and transparency that you just shared, and I'm getting a little emotional. I'm going to let myself be emotional because I think it's important. We tend to think that healing is all about resilience in the mind, from the perspective of, you mentioned warrior, right? And it is, and resilience is essential. But part of healing and part of carrying on is taking time to recognize and discuss and embrace and work through the way that we've been impacted by things that have happened. And you sharing about your children. So I have 3 teenagers, and we've had, some different health crises and things that have gone on in our household. And I think as a parent, there's a lot of that we carry, whether there's any correlation between our health or our parenting that has influenced it. As a parent, that happens, right? And that's, again, being a parent biologically, being a parent by adoption, whatever way you've come to be a parent, you are responsible for helping this person navigate life.
Ugh.
And that's a lot. That's a lot. It's beautiful. It's incredible, right? I'm grateful for it. But there are days where you're just like, wow, I don't know what I'm doing, because we don't, because every day is different. Every child is different. And so I struggled with depression and anxiety for most of my life. And some of that was genetic, and some of that was due to circumstances that I encountered and stress along those lines. And you know what you said about the dance, right? This is a beautiful thing. Dance can be healing, can be helpful, but you can also take something really positive and use it in a negative way. The same way we can take negative things and use them in a positive way. I was a runner, and I used to use running to escape, right? It was great. Hey, I'm healthy. I'm doing good. This is taking care of my body. The endorphins are outstanding, right? Nobody's going to argue with the power of endorphins. So you feel all that well-being that's perceived, but there's other things that are taking place. I really, really wish that we looked at mental well-being the same way that we look at physical well-being. Like we make these appointments, your annual checkups, right, to get things checked out. And we are just dealing with all of these other things that if we checked in on and we acknowledged them prior to, right? And if there are other parents that are watching, I'm sure that everybody can relate to there was something right in front of my face. I didn't see it, right? Because no matter how intentional you are as a parent, we are carrying all these other things around inside of us that we're trying to maneuver through. But hey, the beauty of this right now, and that's the part that really, I think, just why I wanted people to take that in, is it happened. You acknowledged it. You're being open about it. Are you proud of the fact that you missed that and what could have happened, right? No. But you know what? You're saying, hey, look, it happened. Here's how it happened. And it's okay. We're going to go forward. So let's reach out to one another and say, how can I help? Or I need help, right? How can I help, or I need help? Because both of those are equally valuable to everybody that's involved.
Yeah. I think it's just the acknowledgement that we all have no small print instructions on how to manage life. Whether you have parents, are a parent, you have kittens, sorry guys, kittens, I have 12 cats. Every single cat has its own unique rules. They're all so different. Like my children, I know. It's like, what? How
Well,
do
12 cats. I'm
that?
just thinking like, wow, I don't think I could manage 12 cats. I thought 3 teenagers, but I'm like, add 12 cats. And I'm like, oh, I don't think I'm out.
They say pets show up in your life when you need them. And there's a post on my social media about 4 of the 13 cats we ended up having in total. We just said goodbye to our 13th one, Squishy. They all had stories. One of them came during my chemo. One came, Mushy, our oldest cat, showed up when Danny was first diagnosed with type 1. He had not smiled in 3 weeks. And at that time, I was still teaching Sharky workout at a local YMCA. And my kids were baton twirlers. That was part of my working and membership. And my director, this amazing woman, was catching feral cats, neutering the mothers, sending them out, and then adopting out the babies. And we went into this tent, and my son picked up this little ugly cat. Like, she was so ugly. It's just so ugly, folks. I'll show you pictures. Mushy was very, very ugly. However, when he picked up Mushy, she started purring so loudly that he smiled. And I went, oh my God, this cat's going to go home with us. It's going to go home with us. I can't not. Because every time he put her down, she stopped smiling. She stopped purring. So he picked her up. She purred again. Put it down, stopped purring. And so I was like, yeah, this cat's going home with us. And the irony is Mushy ended up being our sensor. Danny was hitting lows, Deb, scary lows in the middle of the night. 40 blood sugars. That's when it's very dangerous. Yeah. Normally said between 80 to 120. So from when a child's at 40 and 30 and there's no sensor telling you that, you're guessing every hour you're testing the blood sugars to make sure they're going to wake up. She would come get me, Deb, when he was low in the middle of the night because I was up dancing. Right. I was doing belly dancing and learning my choreographies until 2 to test him. And sometimes he would drop before and she would come running, screaming at me. And I would test him and he would be like 35.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, you hear stories of that, right? I mean, I never had any personal experience, but I mean, that's why that people have pets that they, ones that can detect seizures, ones that can detect heart murmurs, et cetera, all of these different things. But the beauty of it, I think that there's probably something to the fact that, you noted the cat was ugly, right? I mean, there are some animals. It's like a cute ugly, right? Like we have a pug, and pugs are funny looking animals, but you're either like, oh, it's really cute, or you're like, that is a funky face. So right, the cat, but the cat had, okay, so in from a worldly view, right? From a culturally worldly view, it's like, okay, who's that cat going to help? Like, that is a funky cat. That cat's not attractive, etc. But there it is again. There's that message, right? Right. There's a cat that you would think maybe is going to be, who knows what's going to happen to it because it's not going to be anybody's choice pick. And yet that cat became very much an emotional healing animal for your child and actually helped. Right. It was like medically aware. and then there's science behind it. I don't fully understand enough because I haven't done enough, but I know that there's a lot that they talk about the science of animals being able to detect those types of things. And I'm an animal lover and I get it. And I different animals for different reasons, right? If people said like, what's your favorite animal? It really just depends, right? Like I've never had a pet horse, but man, when I stand next to a horse and I pet them and I just look into their eyes, I'm like, oh, okay. Right. So I think that animals are definitely one of the gifts that we're given in this world to help us maneuver through things that sometimes we just don't understand. And
there's something healing in their purr, Deb. When my daughter was going through her intense coming back to us during that time, she slept for weeks. And we had just moved to Utah, Salt Lake City. So that's when I called up the Humane Society and activated our volunteering skills. So the first 3 years of my child's recovery, we were actively taking in so many kittens because you take care of them for 8 weeks, then they get their surgery and then adopted out. So that very first litter throw was this beautiful white cat who we ended up adopting. His name is Apollo, and he is my daughter's emotional support animals. So when she travels, he's with her. He'll know when she is in any type of distress, and he'll come immediately and just sit on her and purr. He sleeps with her every night, and he's part of this integral part of her coming back out, because part of her recovery, Deb, audience, we would be like, all right, well, we're going to take some kittens. Are you up for it? I would ask her. Yeah, Mom, I'm up for it. When those answers came, we knew my daughter wanted to be alive.
Mm.
In the beginning, it was like she couldn't even answer me, and I would just lay these fat. We would feed them, and they'd be all fat and purry, and so she would sleep, and she 3 kittens on her purring in between feedings, and that's how we brought her back. I really don't think I could have kept her here without those kittens, folks.
Right.
Like, honest to goodness truth.
Yeah, that was kind of a brace point to help stabilize the situation. Yeah, certainly. And the act of caring for, like we talk about helping other people, right? Like that's why it's great to say, how can I help you? It's also good to say, can you help me? The act of helpfulness, kindness, whether it's being given or taken or received. Let me say given or received, not taken, but everybody benefits from that feeling, right? So when you're caring for something or someone, and animals obviously warrant a lot of care, that helps you to feel purpose if you have otherwise not been able to attach to purpose, which often when you're in a situation where you're feeling tendencies towards self-harm or tendencies towards, I don't want to be here anymore, which self-harm's a variation on that, right? I'm hurting myself because something in me doesn't see the value that I have. And also the act of self-harm can give you a feeling when you need something to focus on because you can't take the emotional hurt, right? So there's so many different levels to that. But if you're caring for an animal, something to redirect it. Not to say, and I'm sure that you would say the same thing, not that either of us are suggesting that a pet is going to solve all mental health issues.
Correct.
There's a lot that needs to go into it. And for some kids, if they don't have a particular affinity for animals, it may not even perhaps be the path for them. But in general, when my grandmother was in the nursing home, we had a pet rabbit, but this organization would come in with their bunnies, and sometimes we'd bring our bunny. And you have to be a very specific type of bunny. Not all bunnies like to be held. Some bunnies are a little bit more antsy, right? So again, it was specific rabbits that were designed for that type of, but would just sit on their lap and they could just pet them. And they obviously had dogs that would come in sometimes too, but you could just see the joy and the peace for some of the folks that were there that were not even verbal. They had stopped communicating, but you could see their presence shift when they were with the animal. And so you're able to kind of gauge whether it's helpful or not. So there's absolutely something to that. And I think that the way that you interact with an animal is in many ways a dance. And if we go back to dance, right, you're reading language. So my husband actually used to teach swing dance lessons. And I love to dance. My surrounding family, so my brother's kids and everything, they all will joke around because my brother and I have this pretend dance that we do that, like, it's almost like, did you ever watch Seinfeld? Remember Elaine and Seinfeld?
Yes.
So like we'll do that and they'll all be like, oh my gosh, you're dancing like that. But like I can dance not totally dorky. I mean, I enjoy whatever I'm doing. So anyway, my husband was trying to teach me swing dance, and I do it well enough, but not great. But we just had so much fun doing it. It was such a connecting thing. And so I will on occasion watch some of those swing dance challenges that take place. And I saw there was a thing where you don't know your partner. They give you a partner, they put a song on, and you've got to figure out how to dance with each other. So it's somebody you've never danced with. You don't have the routine. You didn't know what the song was going to be. And watching how in the beginning, they rock, right? They find the rhythm together. Let's find the rhythm together. Then a couple start with small movements, right? And then it starts to become more and more until then they can take on this new dance. And like, that's really the way that we form relationships, right? We try to feel out the groove of the situation. We take a couple small acts and then we're able to step it up. And so in similar fashion with an animal, right, you find that connection point, and then they move, right? The cat climbing up when your daughter needed that, the cat coming to get you. There's this ongoing choreography that we could never think to write that starts to become itself.
Yes. And I do want to remind everyone, the quicker you're in tune with yourself, the quicker you pick up other people's reaching out to you. And then the quicker we know, is this something for me?
Mm.
because those dancers you're referring to, I watch a lot of West Coast swing. I'm like, husband, we need to do that. I want to be in a situation where you're in charge and I don't have to do nothing. Right, I joke about that, and in the reality though is they both are very in tune with their bodies. Both of the partners know where they are, their own centers, and they know what they can do. And I ask everyone just to be really clear, dancing itself by itself only gets you so far. You still want to use those moments when it gets you present to then intuitively listen to your own gut and go, I need this. I don't need that. This is for me. This is for later. And that's
Yeah.
really right, because the side effect of dance, like a dopamine hit, the serotonin, lasts only for so long. Similar to my clearing denial, which I have to do every day to be reminded of my truth. How do you get in connection with your truth? So, am I allowed to use adult language? Okay, I won't do that. All right. So, real talk, Auntie
I mean,
Jenny
I'm not sure what
moment.
adult word you were gonna. Real talk. Go for it. Let me hear your real talk.
So, Auntie Jenny talk, right? I present to you as a very put together person, I think. In reality, I had to go in the last through 5 years, a real microscopic look at the way I grew up and how much pain I was and how much sadness, even now as I speak to you, I still carry in my heart. All right. A lot of us have difficulty acknowledging that. It's really important you do.
Right.
I had so much anger in the past, anger at some adults in my life, right? Mhm. Those are not healthy, by the way, because they talk about how anger at someone is you poisoning you drinking poison, hoping to disturb someone else. You're ingesting the poison. The other person you're angry at, it does not affect them. No matter how strong we think that energy can really swing that way, it's actually more how it affects you,
Right.
right? So part of me saying the world needs to heal through dance is so that you can find your happiness, find your joy, release your anger, and feel your sadness.
Yeah. Yeah. All parts of the song, if you will, right? All parts of it. And, as you were saying that too, I was thinking about also that, like, you can love all different types of music, but when you are, you do have to pick and focus, right? You can't dance to every song at the same time, right?
Yes. Ooh,
Yeah,
good one.
right. Yeah, that just came while you were talking. It popped into my head. I was thinking, yeah, you've got to find your place. It doesn't mean you can't do different things at different times, but you need to be able to focus and you need to be able to be comfortable starting that, as we talking about with the West Coast swing, starting that rock, showing your story so that people know they're on the same rhythm as me right now. Okay, we can do this. So I love your story. We went over 30, which was fine because I thought, if people, oh, that's okay. Because I figured if people wanted to drop off, they could drop off. I could talk on and on and on, but I want to, before we close, you've mentioned your book a couple times. I would like you to tell folks a little bit about your book and how they could get it, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that could benefit from that. And I do want to give you a chance to let people know the best way to connect with you on social media before we wrap up, so that they can ask you some of these questions, because I'm pretty confident that there's people out there that heard something that you said and would like a little bit of follow-up information.
Thank you, Deb, so much. My book is called Outside in Recovery, Dancing My Way Back to Myself After Breast Cancer. It's a mouthful. So when you read the book, it'll show you the ways I found to be whole again. You can find me on social anywhere. And if you want to get a taste of working with me with no obligations other than being on my mailing list, I'm sorry, Desi, I'll get better with my newsletters. She's listening. You can go to danceandheal.com and get our free 1 hour access course. Just dance with me, stretch with me. Hi, Zell.
Yeah, I saw Zell, Teresa, somebody, Corey, all
Yeah.
joined us. Didn't get to respond to you all. I apologize. I just popped that up. Corey also said all true. Teresa was saying, she's enjoying the value of voice. So I thank you all. Thank you for joining. But yeah, and so you were saying if people wanted to connect with you outside of joining your email list that you're going to get better at, what would be the best option?
You can just message me on any social media. I realize there's a lot of Jenny Cohens. You type in Jenny C. Cohen, I pop up everywhere. Tell me you heard me on Zell's broadcast. Okay. And then ask me any questions so then I can orient about what we talked about.
Deb's podcast. That's okay.
I'm looking at Zell's comments.
I know you are.
Sorry,
I know why you did it. You're good.
Yeah,
You're
I
good.
know. I'm a chemo brain person, so folks,
I call
me that use
by the wrong name sometimes. It doesn't. I just didn't want people to be confused and be saying that to you. And you're like, what? What podcast?
Who's that? Tell me on Deb's broadcast, and then remind me what about what we talked about you wanted to have a conversation. Okay. And then I'm all ears and I will offer whatever I can to help you with your question.
Yeah, and as I always say to the audience too, if you're joining today or watching after the fact because you're connected to me and you'd like an introduction, please reach out, and I would be more than happy to do that. I know that as we get more and more people that are in our audiences, sometimes our responses to direct messages aren't as prompt as they would like. I wish I could respond to everybody as quickly as my heart would like to, but sometimes I can't. So please be patient if we don't respond promptly. Sometimes things also will get caught in the other folder or whatever, but we will. But I would be more than happy to introduce people to you,
Thank you,
so
Deb.
that they can connect with you. And I thank you. I thank you for sharing such a wide variety of tidbits of your journey with us, candidly and transparently. The more that we do that as human beings, the more we are going to all grow together. Yes. Right? We have so much to learn from and with one another. So share your stories, everybody, and ask other people to share their stories, and just take the time to be present in that and take in all that it is. Jenny, thank you again so much. Other than your social media, I do want to let you, any parting words that you want to give listeners after the fact or during this broadcast that you'd like to leave with them?
2 things. Every day laugh, even if you have to find a comedian, like, a couple of favorite ones. I have a few who escape my head right now. Why am I? Either way, there's a bunch of really, really funny comedians. Find one that resonates with you and laugh. Don't worry. Nothing's sacred in life. You can laugh about anything. I give you that permission, okay? 2, give yourself grace. Every day is a new start.
Excellent. Wonderful words. So laugh and give yourself grace, both of which I think we did on this conversation today. So I thank you for doing that. Take care, everybody. We appreciate you joining us and hope you have an amazing week.